Indeed, back in the saddle once again. Friends, let's talk about tonight live. What is the most important personality trait that you have to have if you want to have happy and healthy relationships? Okay, now I'm not really going to get into what is the personality type that should be with another personality type, or any of the Myers-Briggs or horoscopes or any of that stuff. I really want to focus on what is the trait you need to have in order to pull this off, right? Most people, at least most people that I know, would very much like to have healthy and happy relationships, right? And this could be romantic or just friendships. People, having people in your life that have your back and give you that sense of stability. So, excuse me. We want to talk about, is there one most important trait? I mean, you could probably argue that there's many traits that you need to have in order to be successful, but the one that I want to focus on tonight is very important because in my time working with other people, working in business, working as a coach, having successful relationships and happy relationships, and making mistakes and getting it wrong, and being selfish and being narcissistic, you know, I've learned a lot of things over the years that everything I've seen points to if you do not have this personality trait, and if you don't develop it, even if you do have it. Now, if you don't have it, the good news is if you're lacking in this regard, there is something you can do about it, right? It's not as deterministic or closed as, oh, it's because you're this Myers-Briggs type, so you're just screwed. There's nothing you can do to change it. It's absolutely not true. You can absolutely develop this personality trait. You can absolutely continue to improve upon this personality trait, even if you're a person who's naturally good at it. It's something that you can make a lifelong journey of making even stronger, and thus making you more attractive to other people. And I don't just mean physically or sexually. I mean making the person that is you attractive to people in general. Like, people want to be around you. People want to spend time with you. So the good news is, if you lack this trait, and what I've found is a good number of people, and this is, me basing it on not just the folks that I've coached or people I've interacted with in business, but just a lot of the dealings that I have with people across the world in general. And, on the internet side of things, I look at a lot of the comments. Like, I read pretty much every comment that people send me. I don't respond to all of them. A lot of them don't really warrant a response, because a lot of the comments that I get from people are people just expressing themselves and not really looking for me to chime in. They just they felt it was a safe place to express something very personal about themselves. They do it. And I'll usually just click the heart button and keep it moving. I won't respond to that. But what I found with a pretty good number of people, I wouldn't say, not quite ready yet to say it's the majority of people, because the majority of people do not leave me comments, right? But out of the majority of people who leave me comments, I do see a trend that a good number of you lack this trait. Or you may have the trait, but you need to develop it a little bit. And that's part of the reason why I would say, especially those of you who have commented to me with problems with relationships. And if you're here, leave a comment so I can shout you out and say hello. It's a trait that needs to be developed. And I find that a good number of people just have it, do not have it at all. In fact, I had someone kind of rant at me recently about, it was this weird, I'm going to show you that you don't know what narcissism is, but the person, everything they were saying was highly narcissistic. So it was kind of like, I don't know if you have as much self-awareness as you would like to believe. And Jordan Peterson talks about that in his book, 12 Rules for Life, where he says, don't overestimate how self-aware that you are, right? And this is something that I've encouraged all of you to make a lifelong journey, which is very much why when I was doing Myers-Briggs content before I stopped doing it, those of you who are new here may not realize that most of that content you're watching is months or even years old, and I haven't been making any more of it. And I won't get into the rant of why I stopped doing that, but it's one of those things where I've encouraged all of you not just to look at your stuff, right? If you're a specific personality type, don't just watch yours. Like, we become more self-aware by interacting with other people too. That's a part of it. It's not just reading blogs or watching my videos and all of a sudden you're going to wake up tomorrow and be highly self-aware. A lot of things you have going on in your personality and in your psyche are blind spots that other people help you expose, right? Like, for example, one of the things I hear, and it's certainly a minority of people, but I hear it enough to say, I have to make some decisions about the way that I behave and the way that I communicate and the way that I project myself. Because something that I hear every once in a while is that I am, what's the right word? Not really arrogant, but that people feel, even though I'm totally not intending to do it, but people from time to time feel that I'm talking down to them. And that's happened throughout my life. In fact, I had a girlfriend once upon a time that felt like I was always talking down to her. And I used to always kind of look at her dumbfounded, like, I would never talk down to anybody. It's not in my heart to do that because I know what it feels like. But what am I doing that they are perceiving as me talking down to them, even though it's not my intent? What is it about my tone? What is it about the context of what I'm talking about that's making them feel this way? And again, that goes back to the trait we're going to talk about tonight. The fact that I started to self-reflect, even though I didn't necessarily agree with the person. Whether I agree with them or not, it's true, at least for them. Right? So there's a little bit of empathy involved in that. And so for you, I say all that to say, many of you that I'm interacting with lack this trait based on the things that I'm seeing in my interactions with you. But don't feel bad. A lot of people the world over lack this trait. This is something, if you take a person like me, for example, who, when you're tested for this trait, I score very high. But that's not because I'm awesome or I was created this way. I mean, part of it's my DNA, but it's also my environment, and it's also conditioning, right? It's conditioning because I've been in organizations, I've been in professions where this trait has to be developed in order to survive. So I kind of have a leg up on the world because I've had, the military, Uncle Sam spent millions of dollars in training me to be this way. So I have what you would call maybe an unfair advantage in developing this trait. But it's something that I definitely want to share with all of you. And I just kind of wanted to preface with that. Let's see. Terry's here. He says, "Sup, I just finished a game I know you will absolutely loathe. Resonance of Fate." I've actually played it. Didn't hate it as much as I thought I would, but was definitely bored by it. I didn't enjoy it. Let's put it that way. But I wasn't like, oh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. But it was definitely boring. It's definitely that. But yeah, so what is this trait that we're talking about? And again, just like Terry, leave me a comment here so I can shout you out and say hello. I know a lot of people tend to lurk when you come on these things and don't type. Or sometimes you're on a phone where you can't type or you're doing a thing. Maybe you're watching me on TV and there's nothing you can do to comment. It's totally cool. So the trait that I want to talk about tonight is agreeableness. And it's the A, if you've heard me talk about the Hexaco test, Hexaco, or hotel, echo, X-ray, alpha, Charlie, Oscar, a little phonetic alphabet there for you. The Hexaco test measures what's called the Big 6 personality traits. It used to be called the Big 5 back in the day. They added openness to experience on at the end, which I think is really just an extension of extroversion. But, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Jordan Peterson talks about this at great length, right? He talks about the Big 5 a lot. In fact, he has his own test on his website that he devised where you can take it and understand your Big 5. And I think he adds a lot of valuable context, so I highly recommend that. But the Hexaco is like the evolution of this program. So it's the A in Hexaco, I believe, is your most valuable trait in terms of relating to other people. Now, some people would argue, oh no, it's the H, you have to have honesty and humility. You could have a ton of honesty and humility, but not be able to get along with people. You might be the person who's really, really honest, but then you're honest in contextual situations where your blatant, brazen honesty is more offensive than it is helping. And then usually what people who are like that, who have no agreeableness and a high level of, or honesty, not so much humility. They're like, well, the truth will set you free, and I'm just telling them the truth. Like they'll defend themselves. And I'm like, you're proving the fact that you have no agreeableness. And one of the traits underneath agreeableness is flexibility. And I find that very many people are very, very inflexible. It's just the nature of the beast, especially the folks I run into on the internet. You know, like I said, is it the majority of people who follow my content? Well, there's no way for me to know that because the majority of people do not interact with me. It's a very small minority of people that actually interact. Out of the people who interact, I'd say it's at least 50-50. You know, I've had people scream at me, call me names, and usually those are people that have some type of social disorder, right? A lot of the stuff they're doing, it's not 100% their fault. Like they may need medication, and I don't say that to be funny. I say it to be for real. If you've read The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt, he talks about that. Terry says, took the Hexaco test twice, forgot all my result. Way too much information to remember. I do remember that my sincerity is a 5.0. That's about it. So yeah, just like Einstein always said or once said, I don't know if he always said it, Einstein said, never memorize what you can look up. The beautiful thing is the test gives you that PDF that you can download. I constantly have to go back and review it. There's no way you can remember all of that, and nor should you. You can understand conceptually that you're high or low in something, but trying to remember all the numbers and the breakdowns, that's why they give you the PDF so you can go back and reference it. You know, like I can tell you, I score way above the mean scores for everything except the E, which is emotionality. I score pretty low in that, and I score well below the mean scores for that, which can be good and bad. It's great if you're having to make, you know, emotionless business decisions, or if you're having to fight a war. You know, like if you have to make a decision to, let's say, let one of your staff members go. Low emotionality is going to make that a little bit easier on you. Like if you're high in emotionality, that would be very hard for you to do. And that's not to say that someone low in emotionality, it's way easy. It's hard, period, but it would be easier. It's not necessarily the greatest thing in the world if you're around like me. A lot of people in my life, and this goes back to agreeableness, what we're talking, the kind of the crux of what we're talking about tonight. If I'm around a lot of sentimental people, and I am, pretty much everyone else in my life is very sentimental and emotional. I'm not so much. So I have to, when I'm in those social environments with my tribe, I will usually adjust myself and behave more sensitively to the other people's emotions. Not to manipulate them, not to patronize them, but out of respect that this is their expectation, right? Uh-oh. What happened here? Did our, it's looking like our little stream here froze up. Can you guys still hear me? Even though my screen froze, I don't know what you guys are seeing. Okay, you can hear but can't see. All right, that's cool. Well, I'll keep talking. But yeah, so that's pretty much the gist. And so how do we understand, one, are we agreeable people? Do we have a level of flexibility that aids us in our relationships? One, you can take the Hexaco test. But two, really, you know, take the Hexaco test and, you know, self-evaluate. You know, if I were delusional, I'd say, well, I can be sentimental. I have to work at it, right? I talk with many people who really lack flexibility. They lack agreeableness. And I'm looking at it here. Let me pull it up on my screen since you guys can't see anything. Scooby-Doo, where is it? I know I got my Hexaco test results somewhere. I don't see them. Oh well, I'll go back to YouTube here. So Terry says, by the way, I'm aware that Bobby Kotick isn't the only problem with Activision, but it's pretty obvious that he's after those big bonuses. The problem is PLCs. PLCs are just a terrible idea. And what is a PLC? What is that acronym you're using? Yeah, there you go. Public limited company. Is that what you guys call them in the UK for incorporations or incorporated companies? Yeah, so they were a great idea when, you know, our global economic experience, and you're right, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head of what I was going to talk about. they were a great idea in our global economic experiment. The challenge is their usefulness. It's hit that point of diminishing returns where, a person like Bobby Kotick, if he wants to remain the CEO of a company, he has to play the game in a way that makes shareholders, and more importantly, the chairman or the people on his board happy. And the way you make a board happy when you're a publicly traded company is make sure that you're continually showing profits. The challenge with that is to do the right thing as a company. And Amazon's actually not bad at this. So there are companies that are publicly traded that can get this right. Amazon will do this from time to time. But they also have Jeff Bezos at the head, who is a freaking mastermind, right? You got a Bobby Kotick, or fill in the blank with any other CEO, and so the issue becomes, if you want to remain, it's almost like politics, to be honest with you, and it's why I have a general disdain for politicians, not the humans. I think most of them are probably trying to do the right thing, but they find themselves in a system where they have to play the game a certain way in order to get their benefit, which is getting voted into office. And I look at companies very similarly in that if he wants to remain the CEO of Activision, he's got to play the game in a way where there's going to be continual profits in the short term. That's the real problem. It's not that the company's after profits, because anybody that thinks a company shouldn't make profits is ridiculous, right? It's like if my company, like if our vision was we're going to cure infectious disease, right? We're going to cure AIDS, we're going to cure cancer, we're going to get rid of all this stuff. First of all, if you're what I believe delusional enough to believe that I'm going to start that as a non-profit, like no. Profit is going to fuel the engine such that the more revenue we can bring in, whether we're a publicly traded company or not, the better we can serve other people. And so if you have an ethical vision from the beginning, bringing in profits can be a good thing. So I hear, especially people in the gaming industry, just bemoaning, all they care about is profits. No, they care about, and a lot, because remember, the they you're talking about is the people that work there too. And a lot of them aren't just there for profits. They're there to feed a family. They're there because they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And so the profits in and of themselves are not a bad thing. Where it becomes bad is when a company is making all of their decisions for short-term profit. That's problematic, because to make short-term profit, you are going to take shortcuts that are potentially going to curtail the amount of profit that you can make down the road. So if you wanted to use Activision as an example, let's use Call of Duty as a business case, right? Call of Duty on its, if you look at the bell curve of it's getting more and more popular, go back to the original, and then right around Call of Duty 2 is when they hit, like, oh, we have something. And part of the reason why it hit was because it was a launch title on a brand new system that a lot of people were excited about. And there weren't a lot of other games, so everyone bought that. And then eventually you get Modern Warfare, which is kind of the pinnacle. And then from there, you might see a little bit more profitability, but then it goes into the bell curve of that point of diminishing returns, where now we're going to keep putting out games, but the amount of profit that we can make on these games is going to consistently diminish over time. The short-term philosophy is just keep putting them out because we're going to make all this money. The long-term problem is now you've burnt an entire audience out on a piece of material, on a type of material, that now we're going to go to Fortnite, now we're going to go to these horrible survival games and loot boxes and all this other stuff. So now what do? Because we've burnt out our, the goose that laid the golden egg, now we start finding ways to gouge our customers, right? And I'll talk about this again on the Twitch stream, Terry, but since you brought it up, I figured we could talk about it here. Now we're going to find a way to gouge our customers because we constantly have to have profits in the profits column in the short term, versus it may be smart here to take a loss so that you can go do something else that gets you profits down the road. But most boards don't want to hear that. And the reason why I use Jeff Bezos as an example is because he, going against his board and some of his advisors at times, will take a loss in order to position his company as the leader a couple years down the road. Like, he'll lose millions and millions of dollars up front, right? But down the road, he's going to make that back. And now, arguably, he's got other parts of the company which are bringing in profits, which can cover that. But yeah, so it's not just the fact that it's a publicly traded company. That's totally fine. It's that most publicly traded companies are focused on short-term profit. let's see, Zartralos, I don't know how to say your name, you can correct me. The more we blend in with our body, the more we blend in with technology. That is their end goal, to destroy your soul. Okay, that's interesting. Self-love says your video on my screen is frozen, refresh, and the page don't know what's up. I don't know what's up either. The audio is still working, so we're trudging along. I actually have no clue as to why the video froze, other than, hey, it's YouTube. Let's see. Terry says, silly thing is PLCs make a ton of money, but it's all shared between tons of people, many of which don't put any work into the company. Yeah, but they put equity into the company, so they're due a return on their investment. He says if they were private, limited, or independent, they see, that's where I think you're wrong. They wouldn't get all the money. Without more investors, you can't raise the capital unless you're going to do a Kickstarter and hope that people are going to fund your game like Shenmue 3. But these companies are not running on hope. Let's see. Sure, it wouldn't make the games big, but yeah, but that's their whole, I mean, you're asking them to not be what they are. He said, sorry for taking up the stream. No, man, all conversations are welcome on the streams. That's what live streams are about, right? It's about the conversation. Nobody else is commenting on anything else, so we might as well talk about this. The only reason why they didn't make big money is because they shadowed by the marketing and publishers. Yeah, so anyway, going back to the original conversation here of what you need to build successful relationships, happy relationships, healthy relationships, is agreeableness. And I've even found some people that I've interacted with where they bemoan being agreeable. Like, I'm going to be myself against all odds. Yeah, but what if yourself is an asshole? Like, have you ever stopped to ask yourself, like, the people who tell me I'm not changing who I am to appease someone else, that's fine. But have you ever stopped to think that maybe the reason you turn so many people away is not because you're some unique personality type and you're just waiting to find your tribe? It may be that you come across as an ass. And there's certain things about yourself that you need to adjust if your end goal is to be around other people. Now, if you want to live alone, sure, don't change those traits. And maybe you're not. Maybe you're awesome and you're just, just the cards haven't been stacked in your favor. But in most cases, what I find with most people is that you attract what you are. You just do. So it's almost funny, but it's not, because I hate to see people hurting. I'll get people that leave me comments that say, why do I keep attracting narcissists? Because you are. Either you are a narcissist, or the way that you behave and the way that you convey yourself is attractive to that. And most people say, well, they're just attracted to me because they can take advantage of me. And there's some truth to that. But there's a flip side of that coin, where I heard a woman speaking recently at an event that I was at. And it was such a profound statement where she said very few things are black and white. She's like, with most things, they have levels. So she's like, she was describing her family, where she says, my family is a hot mess, but also on another level, they're the most awesome people in the world, right? So yeah, maybe you are a giving person, you're an awesome person, but maybe there's a level of you that is narcissistic and overly self-focused. And in order to not attract narcissists, you need to address that and not be delusional or closed-minded to the fact that you need to improve. Going back to what I said earlier on the call, where I talked about, a number of people, a very small minority, but enough to where I now pay attention when I hear it, say that I talk down to people. I don't feel that I do. I don't intend to ever do that, because I hate when people do that to me. But it caused me to self-reflect and say, okay, my intent is never to do that. But something that I'm doing is having that effect on a small percentage of my people. I should look into that. At the very least, look into it to say, just to make a decision of, okay, maybe I need to be more fill in the blank when I present. My decision was, because this is a very vocal but very small minority, it's not to adjust anything. It's just me accepting that some people are sensitive in ways that no matter how much of myself I adjust, they're going to find fault. Right? That was my conclusion. But I at least took the time. I had the agreeableness and the honesty and humility to, at the very least, investigate. Say, maybe there's some merit to this. Maybe I'm condescending. Maybe there's something that I'm doing that I need to adjust. And what I came to was, I just have a tendency to kick things the way they are and be straight with people. And if feelings get hurt, I accept that, but I don't make apologies for who I am. Right? There's certain parts that I think you need to be agreeable, but then there is, going back to the earlier statement where I was admonishing people for saying they're just going to dig in their heels and be themselves, and that's fine. I think there's times where you definitely do that, and that's one of these times for me. So it's very nuanced the way you have to approach these things, especially something as complicated as personality. So let's see. Terry says, I am an asshole. I know that better than anyone. I think some people are insecure, and those people need to be perked up a little and complimented a little because they think everyone on the planet has at least one good quality. I think at least, you think everyone on the planet. Yeah, I think so too. Right? I 100% believe this. Part of the reason why I do what I do because I have hope, and I've seen people be able to make adjustments in their life when they're willing to do so. Let's see. But you said you think some people are, and that's the truth. Some people will project their insecurities on you. I was talking about the person that was arguing, like they had not looked up the definition of narcissism, and they just assumed that there's just this one type of narcissism, which is the one that has the negative connotation, right? Which is just a narcissist is this evil person who only cares about themselves. When you look at narcissism in its purest form, a degree of narcissism is necessary, a degree of self-focus, because they started citing, narcissistic personality disorder. I never brought that up. I wasn't talking about that. I was talking specifically about a degree of, everyone has a degree of narcissism. You can take a test that'll show you how much you have. And what I was saying is that a certain degree of narcissism is necessary in order for you to survive. Because if you were completely selfless, you would actually be really selfish because you couldn't take care of you and you certainly couldn't help anybody else. But they took it down the road. But the point was that was their impression of what I said. They got offended by what I said. It's fine. Then my decision is either do I adjust the way I approach people, or do I just accept the fact that some people are going to be sensitive and somewhat maybe even offended by what I say. And I can live with the fact that sometimes what I say offends people. It's cool. It just means that what I'm saying, they're either not the target audience or they're just not ready to hear it. Right. So Terry says, in reality, we're all humans. We're all flawed. No one is better than anyone else. For that reason, we need to work together to better each other. Yeah. Yep. I like that. If you can compliment someone, they will be more receptive to your criticism. Yeah, I have found I usually will open, or I'll find a way to turn a criticism into, hey, I'll find a way to turn a criticism into less of a criticism and more of a, hey, you already do this thing pretty well. Let me show you how to do it even better. Right? Versus, hey, you suck at this. And part of it is just knowing who you're talking to. When you speak as much and you facilitate as much and you coach as much as I do, you start to be able to read people very easily. Most of the time. Some, more developed people are a little bit harder to read because they're very nuanced and they're very well developed. It's what makes them hard to read. And, it's I've learned when I need to do that. But then there's also, like if I'm talking to someone like me, I'd be like, yo, dude, that sucked. Next time, do this instead, right? Because I can take that. That's the level of critique that I can take and it doesn't bother me, right? Because me sucking at a thing is not what people tend to kind of do that I think is wrong, is they will take something they did or something they're not good at, and then that becomes a part of their identity and their self-worth. It's like, no, I did a thing that sucked. I remember one time I was doing my performance evaluation at a job, and I actually wrote in there like, yo, I totally sucked at this one part, could have done a much better job, here's the things I could have done. Like, I basically just told on myself, like, these are, and my supervisor at the time was like, yo, that was dope. Like, you really, most people write these things up and try to hype themselves up like, it was awesome and I saved the world. You were just like, no, I sucked at this and I admit it, could have done a much better job. Here's the things I should have done to make it better. I failed to do it. So, I'll take the hit. But some people can't do that. Some people, their performance becomes a part of their identity instead of the other way around, which is your identity should drive your performance. And when you do something less than perfect, it's just a time to reflect and improve, not a time to tear yourself down or feel bad about yourself. All right, so Terry says, sometimes you need to accept someone else's help and help them in return. I don't think sugarcoating is a good thing, though. Got to be practical with compliments, Chris. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I wouldn't say complimenting someone goes as far as sugarcoating, because sugarcoating usually implies that you're helping someone with ulterior motives. Right? If I have ulterior motives, then sure. In fact, that's one of the questions I think on the test that measures your narcissism. When they're measuring how much of a manipulative person you are, they're like, will you compliment someone that you hate in order to get what you want? And so what that's measuring is, if the person says, hell yeah, it's like, okay, you're manipulative. It's, you would never compliment this person or be nice to them in outside of any other context except for the fact that they have leverage, right? Like I talked to you guys about, I've been in a number of business meetings where I have been attacked. One, I was almost attacked physically, and my responses are a little bit different depending on the situation, but the spirit behind my responses is always the same. This is a person I never want to work with. Because if they're going to treat me like this just in the meeting before we even start working together, or maybe we're already working together in the case of the person that tried to attack me physically, this is a person I never want to work with long term, and I need to find a way to get out of this relationship. Versus someone who's just about trying to get their portfolio up or make more money. Like, I'm going to do everything I can to kiss this person's ass so that they like me and want me to be a... No. If you're an asshole, I don't want to work with that. That is my, like, one of my number one criteria. Like, when I'm evaluating or qualifying a client, is this person an asshole, is in the top 5 questions. Because I don't want to work because that person is going to be miserable to work with. Or if I take the contract and I put one of my people on it, they're going to be miserable because they have to work with this person. So I'll just walk away from the contract. And usually what I'll do is I'll give them some help, kind of just to be the better person. Just say, hey, here's some things you can think about. But I remember the dude that tried to attack me physically. In fact, I was his client in this case, not the other way around. And I basically brought him into the room telling him he was fired because he wasn't doing he was not doing what he was contractually obligated to do. So I'm like, hey man, it's been real. In fact, I sent him, I think I handled it via a letter to his business, like, yo, because this was a long time ago before, like, social media didn't exist. I was still running my online community that I had built before Facebook and all this other stuff back then. And I basically said, hey, it's been real. I don't know what the previous person in my position as the client did when they were working with you, but this is unacceptable. I've had to call and ask for help way too many times. You're not getting it done, and the things you do get done, they're not happening in a timely fashion. So he flies all the way from Texas to come meet with me, and I'm just sitting at the table like, I don't understand why you want to meet with me, because there's no way to salvage this. You and I are done. And he comes across the table like, do you understand? And I said, here, and before he could finish the sentence, what I said to him was, here's what I understand. And I just looked him in his face and I said, here's what I understand. I am twice your size and half your age. Do you really want this meeting to go where you're getting ready to take it? And he kind of sat back down. And both of those statements were true. I was twice his size and half his age. Maybe more than half his age. Like, you can't think you're going to come across the table at me and think you are not going to get your ass whooped in this conference room if you because dude, I'm an ex-soldier. You put your hands on me, I'm not calling the police officers before I subdue you. I'll call them after, like, hey, this old guy just attacked me. And I know all the words to say to make sure it doesn't sound like I just attacked an old man. And he wasn't an old man. He was not going to win a fight with me, is the point. Because I was in my 20s running this guy's business when this happened. And the point being, it's a matter of knowing when to be agreeable and when not to be, right? Knowing when it's okay to just stand your ground and be like, yo, no, not even putting up with this. I don't care if this person likes me or not. You're done. And so you have to know where you are on the spectrum of things, right? How do you make those decisions? Someone who's driven by money and just wants to hurry up and make more money will take a client on that Yeah, you know, in fact, I was a client from another person. Terry and I actually talked about this on Twitter, and I think Terry misunderstood what Jeffrey Gitomer and I were trying to explain to Terry. What he couldn't wrap his head around was, I just want the people to tell me what's up, so I want the results. It's like, no, in business, there is a code of honor that you don't cross, which is, if you come into a business meeting with me and you crap, the way you establish yourself as the authority is you crap all over another business owner, you suck. You just suck. Because if you're not good enough, first of all, if I don't know who you are, you're not good enough. Two, if you're the underdog and you're coming into the business and your whole briefing, your whole presentation is, well, at least we're not as bad as these other crappy companies that you hired, you suck. You have to be able to communicate what is actually awesome about you without crapping on another business owner. And what you're doing is you're telling on yourself. You're telling that you suck. You're telling that you do not have the skills to come in here and do business. Otherwise, your conversation would have focused on how you are going to help me, not how all these other companies aren't. Because believe me, if this person for a second thought I didn't know the flaws in this other company, dude, I'm the effing client. You think I'm not researching these people? Give me a break, right? So the point there is, you have to know where to draw the line and how to deal with people. And sometimes being nice and agreeable is not the answer, right? But you have to know when you have to be able to do that. All right, so I missed some comments here. Let's get them. Adam Tabor says, yo. Adam Tabor says, stream is frozen. B, yep, we're aware. We're just rolling with it. Just gonna roll audio, man. If you haven't caught on by now that I am not a stickler for video quality on a video platform, no less. Let's see. Joshua Barcine says, what's up, Mr. Chambers? So do you think we may be moving to a more dangerous place as a society with the way seemingly people are as sensitive as ever? I totally get adjusting and knowing who you are talking to is important, and we should respect everyone, but sensitivity can breed stagnation, and lack of innovation is complicated. So the answer is no. We live in a time in human history where we're capable of doing far more destruction to one another than ever before in human history, and we don't do it, right? So no, I'm optimistic about it. And the thing I always have to remind people of is, first of all, what you see in the news is designed to sell you stuff. So they're going to focus on all these things. Remember, what do humans pay most attention to? First of all, other humans. Number one, first and foremost. That's why all of the people, men and women that they put on these new shows, are attractive to some degree, right? Two, we pay attention to things we hope are true, right? Like, so when that marketer sends you this program that I just launched is going to change your life forever, you're hoping, okay, I hope this is true. Let me click on it, right? You also pay attention to things you fear are true and hope won't be true, right? That's why when I literally watched a lady on CNN the other day say, find out how romaine lettuce is killing you here in a minute. Like, woman, if the lettuce is killing everybody, can we not go to commercial break and tell me about it now, right? It's a hustle. That's why I tell people turn the news off. It's a hustle designed to sell you, let me raise your anxiety and cortisol levels so I can sell you Xanax and Viagra. Like, instead of just teaching you how to live a life to where you don't go through those problems to where you need drugs, except for in extreme cases, I'm actually going to cause the problem and then sell you the drug. And that's what the news is doing. So I say all that to say, to as the kind of the preface to, no, I don't think we're moving into a hypersensitive world, because the hypersensitive people that you're hearing is a byproduct of the internet, meaning the internet gave everybody a voice. Those hypersensitive people existed 10, 15, 20 years ago. They just never had a medium upon which to scream their insecure hatred at other people. I mean, I literally I've not worked with, but I've dealt with people who want to make it illegal to be mean to people. And I'm like, what effing fantasy world? Like, I don't want it to be illegal for someone to hate me. I want a person to have the right to hate me. I also want a person to have free speech, right? And that's not to say that there's no such thing as hate crimes. There's no such thing as using your words inappropriately. But guess what? The best way to stop people from saying crappy stuff is to let them say it, and then let them say it really loud in public. And then public is going to decimate and crucify that person. Don't legalize it. Don't run to the legal system to try to weed that person out, because all they're going to do is stop saying it in front of you, which means now you've stopped what you're actually trying to accomplish, which is shutting that person up. Now they're just going to go to the safe places where they can talk the way they want to talk. No, let them talk how they want to talk. And when they say something stupid, society will deal with it accordingly. But the hypersensitivity that we're seeing and experiencing and that everyone's kind of afraid of, it's just not real, because it's a vocal minority of people. And I've dealt with them. I told the story of, unfortunately, my son getting into a fight. And the resolution wasn't as agreeable as I had hoped. Like, parents would talk to each other and say, hey, how do we figure this out? Both kids are culpable, but it was all very one-sided. Your son is evil and blah, blah, blah. Like, really? It's all my guy? Okay. You clearly didn't hear the story that my son told me before this thing broke out, but that's fine. If we don't want to handle it as, adults and people who are not insecure, then all you can do is act. So do those people exist? Yes, but they're the minority. 9.9 out of 10 people that I deal with just want to get to resolutions. All right? And by the way, think about this, for example. We live in an era of human history where we as a species have never had as much access to prosperity as we do now. Now, I get it. There's people in places where they don't have access to that, where they're not taking advantage of the opportunity in front of them. But the opportunities are far greater than they've ever been for people to create a prosperous life. And we deal with more PTSD, depression, social anxiety, social disorders than ever throughout human history, right? Why is that? Well, part of it's the contrast bias, I believe, in the mind, the way the mind works. I also believe we never developed the character to have the prosperity that we have. And really the character is born through hardship. Right? We call the Great Generation because they did a lot of awesome things and they went through a lot of hell in order to make those awesome things happen. Their descendants didn't have to go through as much hell to be able to have as more and hundreds of times of benefits as them. So that they never got the blessing of having to build the character by going through suffering and hardship. Not to say that people don't go through suffering, because they absolutely do. So, no. I don't think we're going into a world where we need to be afraid of the hypersensitive people. They're going to get their 15 minutes of fame on the internet where they're screaming at everybody, like the people on Twitter. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. Meanwhile, we're down here throwing sandbags and helping people put out these fires, and you screaming about being outraged. And why don't you come down here and help us throw sandbags at this hurricane and shut your mouth, right? That response is 9 out of the 10 people I deal with. The one person screaming about the outrage is the outlier. And they're all telling on themselves. All of them are all over the internet screaming about whatever cause or thing they're fired up about. It's fine. Let them scream about it. Because the rest of the world is watching and just not saying anything because they don't want to get attacked by all their friends. But trust me, out on the porch in Tennessee, there's a family right now not worrying about how sensitive the world is getting, because they don't live in that type of environment. I think you'll find more of that. The more metropolitan the environment you live in is, the more of that social grace and that social sensitivity becomes. Not because there's something wrong with cities, you just have more people, so you have more chances for those people to be in the mix. In a society that's a smaller town, for example, you might have 1 or 2 of those people, but they ain't saying nothing because the town will burn them at the stake. Figuratively speaking. I'm sure someone will be offended by that and think I'm not joking. But that's cool, right? So no, I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I think what's funny is those people would argue that they're inclusive and they're loving everybody. Like, you love everyone except the people who disagree with you, which you call bigots, and you call them all kinds of names without even understanding where they come from or what they believe and where those beliefs came from. You don't put any effort into understanding the person you're screaming at, but you're agreeable. And then going back to, the whole premise of tonight's talk, you lack agreeability, period. You have tons of agreeability when you're dealing with people that you agree with, but that's not a test of agreeableness. It's not a test. It's not flexibility if you don't actually have to flex something. Meaning I might have to adjust the way I talk when I talk to my mom. I couldn't walk into my mom and tell her that something she did sucked. That would not end well. And just because I can take it doesn't mean the rest of the world has to acquiesce to my way of talking. It's my responsibility, if I know better, to make that adjustment. And that's agreeableness and flexibility. Let's see. Let's see. Adam Tabor says, you want them to tell you why they should hire them, not why you're not hiring the other guy. Terry says, people aren't getting more sensitive. Sensitive people are just becoming more vocal. And yeah, I think it's that they have a platform to be vocal. Humans naturally are attracted to negativity and stress. Let's see. Terry says, not going to lie, I enjoy being cynical. It lets me laugh about problems instead of being hurt by problems. You'll never get rid of discrimination. Josh says, yeah, definitely agree. Times are as beautiful as ever and opportunity is great. It's so easy to get lost in all the BS. Thanks for the reminder. Do you think you'll ever write a book? I'd buy it. In fact, I wrote 2 books. One is a derivative of the other, but it's not about this type of stuff. It was how to build a successful YouTube channel and make money from it. That book is on my website if you want to read it. It's totally free. You don't even have to buy it. However, if you just happen to want to buy it, it's also on Amazon. Feel free to go on there and spend all the money you like. But if you want it for free, you can get it from my website. Terry309 says, people will just talk behind your back if the law... Exactly. Yeah. Limiting free speech solves nothing. GT says, are we venting now? I don't know. Do you have something to vent about? Terry, I got kicked out of karate as a kid for making another kid cry. No, what did you do to make him cry? That's my question to you, is if you're making people cry, what did you do? You don't know? What did he say you did? And where are you taking karate where the kids are crying? It's hilarious. Cool. So going back to agreeableness, why is it the most important personality factor in happy, healthy relationships? Well, because if you lack it, you lack the ability to be adaptable. And adaptability is humankind's #1 trait that has allowed us to survive and thrive for so long, is our ability to adapt to our environment. And what you'll find with people who are just completely disagreeable is they don't adapt well. They get into an environment, and because it doesn't suit them or their personal beliefs or their personal needs, they complain, they fuss, they chastise other people for not seeing it their way or not sharing their values. You know, I've talked to a number of women in my travels in coaching and in facilitation. And inevitably, I'll talk to some that work in a place that's very sexist. And the 2 things I'll say to them are, okay, especially if they're working in a place where they lack the ability to change that part of the culture, right? And it's, okay, so what's your plan to get out of here? And instead, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll either try to fight the system or just stay in the system and complain about it, usually because the system's paying them fairly well. Even though they may be making less than their male counterparts, there's still an incentive to stick around because they're still being paid relatively well just in general. And my response to that is always, okay, you've seen over the years that this culture doesn't change. Why would you stay here? Well, I don't have any other options. That's not true. You're just not looking at your options open-minded. Now, you may have to make some adjustments that are uncomfortable to get, and you have to decide, like, is this sexist environment more painful than maybe having to take a pay cut? And what I told them is, ladies, when are you starting your own business? Oh, that's hard. Yeah, no kidding. So is dealing with sexism, and in some cases, sexual assault in the workplace. All of it's hard. What are you going to do about it? And sitting here complaining to me is not going to provide you with a solution that gives you any semblance of happiness, right? So, got to think about it. So Terry, did you say anything to the kid before he started crying, or you just stood there? Just stood there. Huh? And then you got kicked out for that? That's weird. Yeah. Yeah. Stranger things. Right? Stranger things. Cool. So that, my friends, is why I think you have to have a high degree of agreeableness. And if you lack it, the good news is this isn't Myers-Briggs where you're kind of just locked into a personality quote-unquote type. Take the Hexaco test and see how you score. That's the first step. And if you don't know what the Hexaco test is, I will leave a comment here. You can take the test there and get your results. Figure out where you fall. And if you're really low on agreeableness, figure out which facet of agreeableness, whether it's flexibility or one of the other four or other three, and figure out make a plan for how can I improve this, right? So like if I'm really low in flexibility, how can I work to be more flexible? And part of that is when you're in situations where you're prone to be inflexible and to demand your way, just don't demand your way. Is that hard? Yep, because you're going against, years of conditioned behavior. But start with little wins here and there and pat yourself on the back every time you get one, right? And just keep those things in mind. Then figure out what other facets you may be low in. If you're high, great. Just keep working on it. Keep making it better. Keep improving yourself, right? Because the more adaptable you become, the more successful you become. It's the laws of nature. But again, if you're low, those are things you can start to work on immediately and start to realize, be honest and, look at your H score as well for honesty and humility. If you're low there too, if you're low in honesty and humility, guess what? You're probably not very honest with yourself. Or you may be a heavy critic of yourself, but you may not be honest with your flaws, right? And I have people in my life who are very much, either they're not aware of their flaws or they're just in denial because it's a part of their identity and they don't want that to be real. But the only way to really make the adjustment is to admit this is real. This is something that I need to deal with. And if you're delusional or just unwilling to accept that you may have a flaw, then there's not really much help a test or I can render you. Adam says, I'm going back to school and taking marketing. I've heard from some that college is a waste of time. Curious, what do you think about college and how to make the most of any education? So I will tell you personally, I don't think going back to school for marketing is a great idea because the schools in most cases have not caught up to the way marketing is working now. But if your goal is to go work on Madison Avenue, then knock yourself out. But it really comes down to not my personal opinion. More importantly, what is your actual goal? Why are you going back to school to study marketing? What is the specific thing you want to do? And it needs to be something more specific than just, oh, I want to make more money. Because you're in some of my coaching programs. I've showed you other ways to make money that you may not be employing. Why are you going back to school specifically to study marketing? What is it that you want to accomplish? Then you have to figure out, okay, is this thing that I'm trying to accomplish going to be served by me going back to school? All right, that's the better question that you need to ask yourself. Terry says, here's the thing about college. See your classmates. Well, those are your competition. They will be competing for jobs, so you need to have an edge on them. The good news is that Brian has a social media ninja academy. Yeah, Adam's actually in the academy. Let's see, Terry says, so you can get an edge on your peers for being in it. Yep, Adam's already in there, man, but good advice. So yeah, Adam, come back to me on that, and then I'll give you a better answer. Who else has questions? If not, I'm going to go play something on Twitch before I go to bed. And you're welcome, by the way, you are welcome to come hang out with me on Twitch. Pull up my Twitch link here. Booyah. So if you want to hang out with me when I'm doing, I do more live streams on Twitch now than I do on YouTube. Just because it's my downtime and have, oh, really YouTube? Because my name's in it, you're going to flag it and not let me post it? Heathens. So yeah, because I don't monetize my channel, YouTube takes certain abilities away. It's freaking hilarious. Oh, YouTube, you're amazing. Okay. Adam says, I think I would like to work for a company doing things like social media marketing, like maybe being a social media manager. That's cool. I don't know that college is going to teach you what you need to know in that regard. The things you've learned out if you're like most people that take courses, and Adam, I don't want to make any assumptions about you, but I do remember an interaction I had with you about a year ago where you asked me a question that was in like and I'm not trying to embarrass you, I want to help you. So just bear with me here, okay? You asked me a question on our Facebook page about something that had to do with marketing, specifically on YouTube. And the answer was literally the fourth video in the program. And you had been in the program probably for about a year. So my response to you was either you haven't watched the videos or you just don't remember that we talked about this. So I think what you would want to learn about social media, you can probably learn on the internet. Now, in order to get a company to hire you, sure, they're going to ask you about your pedigree. But your pedigree could be you've applied some of the things that I've taught you and actually built. You know, I can walk into any company right now, and I've actually had companies that I've done other work with, like, yo, we've seen you on YouTube. Could you come help us with our YouTube? Right? Like, you've been able to build, like, you have a boring marketing and life coaching and business coaching page, but you've managed to attract, you know, like almost 40,000 subscribers if you look at both channels. Could you help us with that? Like, in fact, I had a conversation with Gold's Gym, and I was showing them why their videos were not performing well. Right? That's a conversation they were willing to entertain with me because they could look and say, well, this guy's doing better numbers than us every month. Right? So one of the best ways to prove that a company should hire you is to prove that you've done it for yourself. Right? I can walk into a company right now and say, hey, depending on your budget, I can guarantee you in the first week, we can get 100,000 followers on Facebook, and not just 100,000 garbage followers. I can get you in a week 100,000 Facebook followers who are actually interested in your product or service and will buy from you. And I can probably guarantee a 2.5% conversion rate on the things that we advertise to these people. And by the way, they'll be happy to be advertised to because I know how to do that. And then I can say, look, these are companies that I've done it for, and you can look at my personal page, which I don't have 100,000, but that's because I'm employing a much smaller strategy. With where our business is right now, if I attracted that many people, I would have people flooding my programs, and we're not ready to take on that weight yet. So I've been kind of slow rolling it. Right? So my advice to you on college is you have to ask, if you need to go into debt to go to college to get a job in marketing, there's a lot of other ways you can do it much cheaper and then just build up your own portfolio and then just show them, you know, yo, I've got 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, for God, like 2,000 people are connected with me on LinkedIn. I must be doing something right. You know, another 8,000 are connected with me on Facebook. 40,000 are connected with me on YouTube. About 1,000 are like, these are things that I can go into a company who may have 50 followers and be like, well, yo, I'd kill for 8,000, right? Those are the things that you need to think through. Do you really want to spend or go into hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt in order to get an education that you probably could have gotten on the internet? Joshua Barstein says, I'll check out your book on your site. Great. So last question. What are one or two of the daily practices you think are most important for your own development and happiness, and why? One or two. Let's see. Let me read the question again. I want to make sure I answer this in a way that's valuable to you. One or two daily practices that you think are most important for your own development and happiness. I think most of my daily activities are integral to my happiness. I don't really waste a lot of time. A lot of what I spend time doing is usually something that's making me better. But I'll give you two of them. One is physical exercise. You know, so many people try to fix mental problems and emotional problems and don't realize that there is a physiological side to those problems. And working out is one of the best ways to reduce stress, for example. It creates what's called eustress versus distress, meaning you're putting a good type of stress on your body that's helpful to you. That's one. The second one is I will, as much as I read books every day. I do the cliche stuff, right? The reading books and doing training. Like, I'm usually taking some type of course every day. I'm reading a book every day. But those are kind of cliche. Those are obvious. The ones that aren't so obvious is on a good week, I work out 5 to 6 days a week. I'm getting ready to adjust it to work out just 5 days a week instead of 6, because as I get older, I need, me personally, I need a little bit more rest because I have a tendency to overdo things, which is why I was in the hospital, right? Like I worked out today and it felt great to get out there and sweat and huff and puff. The second piece is gratitude. Specifically, every day when I wake up, the first words out of my mouth before I talk to my wife or my kids is, God, thank you. It's kind of like a little prayer. It's thank you for the opportunity to do your will and to serve you and to serve your people. And I pray that you help me do it with excellence. Right. So it's making sure that my mind is focused on the reason why I woke up today is to give something back to the world. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that my creator would first make me and then put me in a position where I could help other people. Like the level of gratitude I have for people and my higher power, my creator, my God, value me enough to put me in a position to help them. I value that a just insane amount, you know. And then one of the things I'll write on Twitter a lot of times is, you know, thank you, God, for an amazing life surrounded by amazing people. And that includes a lot of you that I get to interact with on a daily basis. And so it's a heavy, heavy focus on gratitude and the things that I'm grateful for. Because when you're in a state of gratitude, you cannot be angry and resentful. You cannot be bitter. You cannot be anxious when you're grateful, especially when you learn to be grateful even for the hardships that you endure. Like some of the things that I've been through. Like I shot a video that no one watched. I'm not bitter. I say it kind of tongue in cheek. I shot a video that no one watched called Thank God for War. And it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek statement because I don't thank God that war exists, but I do thank him that I was placed in it, because the things that I learned in that space, despite the horrors and the horrible things that happen in those places, I grew as a person because of it. So I thank God for that hardship. You know, I don't thank him that I had to, you know, hurt people or watch people be hurt, but the amount of emotional growth I've had to go through in order to get through that and then to live a life after the fact. That's, you know, most people would just be like, yo, that's hard, it sucks. No, it doesn't suck. I thank God every day that I experience that, because it makes me a stronger, more well-rounded person. And it's another sign that he believes in me and wants me to be able to help a lot of other people. And I thank God for my struggles too, the things I suck at, the things that I struggle with, my shortcomings, having dealt with PTSD. I'm grateful. So that gratitude is probably the most important thing I do every day outside of making sure that I'm healthy. Let's see. Adam says, when it came to my YouTube channel, I think I struggle with application. Sure, I mean, we all do, man. I mean, look at my channel, right? One of the things people always say to me is, you should have way more followers. And it's like, I can tell you step by step why I don't. And a lot of it is because of my own personal decisions. It's not YouTube's fault. It's not the algorithm. It's not my fans. It's I make conscious decisions to do things and create videos sometimes that only 30 people watch, because those are the 30 people that I was trying to reach that day. You know, could I make top 10, you know, top 10 behaviors that prove that you're a ISFP? Sure. Would a lot of people watch that silliness? Yeah. But who am I really helping with that? You know, I mean, you could say I'm entertaining somebody for 5 minutes, and that's fine. There's people that, but I think there's enough people who already do that, and their channels are bigger because they focus on the actual reason why most people watch content is to veg out, or more importantly, to be entertained, and because entertainment, one, takes you out of the driver's seat and allows the content creator to drive what you're experiencing, just like watching a TV show. It's a very passive activity, and they build stuff in a way that creates a lot of dopamine. Again, even like nerdy channels like mine, there's other ones that find ways to shoot it and write their scripts such that it's highly entertaining. My stuff is a little bit more punch people in the face. Not literally, but it's, yo, you want to have a better life? Cool, here's how you do it. And there's not a lot of fanfare. There's not a lot of script writing. There's a lot of, you know, 20 plus years of experience as a professional, because I started working when I was like 12 years old. So a lot of experience just that I can share with someone to help them improve, right? So yeah, it's all application, bro. It's, you know, there's nothing inherently special about a lot of these people that you see get millions and millions of followers. Now, I will say what's different about them is they usually work harder than everybody else that complains about them being successful. Um, there's nothing inherently different about them as a human being a lot of times. Cool. Any other questions? We had a lot of people on tonight, a lot of quiet people tonight, man. What's going on? Usually I can't keep up with the comments. People are typing questions so fast. I think it's partially because I didn't title this with a Myers-Briggs personality type, which would have brought would have brought a bigger audience, and usually people who have a lot of questions about their specific type are the ones that monopolize the airwaves, which is fine. That's not a complaint. It's just an observation. Last call, y'all, on this, what has now turned into a radio show with my weird looking face frozen on the screen. And let's see if I can call out this stuff. There's a Nintendo Switch box, Super Mario World, there's an NES, and then a PlayStation next to that. Let's see, Adam says, got a headline for a video. Which personality type is most likely to die? I am not sure I understand what you're saying, Adam. Can you rephrase that a different way? I'm not sure what you're trying to say. You said, got a headline for a video. Which personality type is most likely to die? He's making a joke, Terry says. Possibly, but I also don't get the joke. Maybe I'm a little bit slow. Christian Jackson says, I pray and hope you will have a blessed Christmas, Mr. Chambers. May God bless you. He does, and he will. And I thank you. God bless you, too. Adam says, it was a bad joke. Sensationalistic video title. Got a headline for a video. Which personality? Oh, your punctuation is what threw me off. I got it. I got it. You left out a comma, and I read it as all one sentence, and it's not supposed to be. You were saying you have a headline for a good video, and the headline is, which personality type is most likely to die? Got it. That actually is funny. I'm slow. It's not your fault. I know the internet doesn't like punctuation. I'm not smart enough. Listen, I grew up before the internet. I grew up before people wrote me a three-page long comment with no periods or commas, and they expect me to be able to figure out what the heck they're talking about. But many of you are skilled at that because you grew up writing people very long text messages about what you're eating for dinner. Not actually, I think Adam's old like me, so I'm also making a bad joke. But I'm bad at math and grammar. You're not in bad. You're in good company. I'm not the best with grammar either. But I get it now. Which maybe I should make that video. Which personality type is most likely to die? I could have fun with that. Which personality type is most likely to die? I'm just trying to think which type I would pick, just for the sake of my own. But the problem with doing that video is about 15% of the people who would watch it would take it absolutely literally. You can't imagine how many people have seen videos I've done, like, and it's a small minority, but it's enough people to where it's like every time you see the comment, it's like, dude, please just do some push-ups and develop a thicker skin, or assume people have noble intent and aren't all out to get you. But like my video, the video I shot, what's it called? It was called I think why INFJs suck at relationships, right? And so people took that to mean, and really all they did was read the title and watch the stupid video. It's like, oh, we don't suck. I'm like, no, I know you don't suck. Like, that is the way the person worded the question to me. They worded the question, can you tell us why INFJs tend to suck at relationships? And I'm like, why INFJs suck at relationships? Well, let me start by saying I don't inherently believe that you suck, but there are some things that you may be experiencing or may not be aware of that you can make adjustments to in your behavior and your thought process that can help you build healthy relationships, whether you suck or not. In fact, I had to make a follow-up video to it saying, hey guys, I don't really think you suck. Calm down. But, you know, like if I did the which personality type's likely to die, there would be 4 people who think I'm not joking and tell me how much of an evil person I am. And all right, that's fine. All right. Sister Hipster says ISFPs are most likely to die. My most views, Terry says, my most viewed blog post is an April Fool's joke titled Valkyrie Profile 3 has just been announced November 2019, April Fool's joke. I can imagine there's a lot of people who are looking forward to that series making a comeback. In fact, I just added, on your recommendation, I was creating my list of games that I'm going to be streaming in the years to come on Twitch, and Valkyrie Profile 2 made that list. I'm like, that's something that I'd like to give a shot to. And it's funny, I also have, and I don't know what happened to it. I need to figure out what my kids did with it. Like, you talk a lot about F-Zero on GameCube. I actually have that game. Just never played it. Adam says, I titled a video, 5 fighting games you probably never played. I got people saying I played this before. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. He says Valkyrie Profile 2 is my top 2 game right there. Man, my top games, you know, I always go to Metroid and Metal Gear as being my top games. And they are. Those are games I could play, you know, at least once a year and never really get tired of doing that. In fact, I kind of do play them. I played Metroid. Was my Metroid playthrough last year? This is 2018? Yeah. I think I played through Metroid last year. Haven't done a Metal Gear playthrough yet, but probably should. It's on my list. Joshua says, have a blessed one, my man. I'm back to work and throwing up the kettlebell when I get home afterwards. Thanks again for what you do. It's my pleasure, Joshua, man. Love you guys a lot. I appreciate you spending some time with me. Because believe it or not, you know, what I tell people in my private coaching program, which I don't talk a whole lot about on YouTube, because YouTube is typically not quite the audience for what we're doing. I know some of you probably are. What's up, Steven? Good to see you, man. Some of you probably are, but I don't talk about it a lot because a good number of you are just not the audience for it. And especially because we're trying to keep the private coaching program very, very small. So we're very scrutinizing about who we let in. And that's not a hit against you if you're on YouTube. It just means, in my experience, the people who would get the most out of it and be willing to put in the work to make it happen are not the average person that I come across on YouTube, at least not the average person that I interact with. There may be tons of you who are watching who are right for the program, and I just haven't heard from you, right? But, you know, one of the things I tell the people in the coaching is like, yo, even though you're paying to be here, you have to understand, if I'm being fully honest with you, and this is part of the reason why I give so much of my coaching content away for free, I get something out of this too. Like, I'm getting a lot out of working with you, just like you're getting a lot out of me giving you information or advice or whatever. Like, I have to be at the top of my game if I'm going to coach somebody, which means I have coaches, plural, right? One whom I talk to every day, and I have an accountability partner that I talk to every day. Another coach I talk to a couple times a month, right? And that's a coach that I pay, right? So I pay too, right? So I got to stay at the top of my game. I got to be reading books. I got to be getting better in business if I'm going to show people how to do this stuff, right? But I don't mince any words about telling the people who are in my program, like, yo, I get something out of this too. Like, it's not just, it's not just me doing this to benefit you. I selfishly am getting something out of my interactions with you. So it's something that I bring up a lot. Let's see. Terry says, your kid's been playing it. Can't resist, I suppose. Kid's been playing what? What are my kids playing? Did I miss another comment somewhere? Oh, no. They haven't been playing it. They just don't do a good job at taking care of stuff and putting it away. But yeah, I'm going to eventually get around to playing that. Yeah, no, I've never even turned it on. I've heard how hard the game is too, so it's no mystery to me that the game is hard as crap. But that's cool. Maybe that's what makes it so attractive and fun for people. All right. Any last minute questions before I get up out here? And if you have questions about this coaching program that I just talked about, shoot me a message over on Facebook. And if you're one of the oh, I don't use Facebook folks, then that's another sign that the program's probably not for you. Let's see. At least not today. But you can absolutely message me on Facebook. It's Bryant Chambers Page is my Facebook page. And you can message me there, and I can send you more information if you think you're a good fit for our band of brothers and sisters who are working to change the world. I'm more than happy to have that conversation with you to see if that's true. Just know that it ain't easy. We put people through a pretty rigorous program. And just keep in mind, I'm an ex-military dude, so if you think I take it easy on people, if you're looking for someone to blow smoke up your fourth point of contact and tell you that it's all roses and you're going to be amazing just because life is awesome, probably not the program for you. I don't know this guy, so I'm looking at... Don't know any of these cats. Okay, I know that dude. Okay. Sure. All right. Well, friends, if there are no more questions, last call, absolute last call. If there's no more questions, I'm going to get up out of here. If you want to come hang out with me over on Twitch, I'm about to start streaming there next. Going to get some downtime in. I'm just trying to decide what I'm actually going to play, because I was playing Shenmue last night, and I think I'm close to beating it, so I kind of want to go back to that. But I also would like to go back to playing Dragon's Dogma. So I'm not sure. Anyway, I love you guys much. Remember always that we are stronger than I. Thank you for putting up with the fact that the video froze like 2 minutes in, and all you had to look at was my weird looking at my desk face in the shot there. You guys are awesome human beings. I am honored and privileged to be among you. Remember that we are stronger than I, and I will see you back here on our next stream. And in 2019, look for us to be more deliberate in how we're doing this type of work, so that you can start to build your schedule around us making work. So be on the lookout for that. Peace.